For children in the foster care system, they need the support of strong adult mentorship. Through a national nonprofit named CASA, court-appointed special advocates, these kids are paired with advocates who care for their safety and well-being.
But as NewsNation's Felicia Bolton discovered, the ripple effects of the pandemic are making it harder for these children to get the help they need. Felicia.
Well, since 1977, CASA has served as an agency that pairs foster children with advocates in the community and the courtroom to protect them as they wait for a safe and permanent home. But COVID-19 has not only added health concerns, it's also added separation between these advocates and those children in need. For children living in the foster system, child welfare experts say they often require extra attention to get through school and the struggles of daily life. But the effects of the pandemic is making access to these resources much harder. Becky Hensel was a foster mom and has adopted 4 children. She says volunteers with CASA have helped to protect her kids throughout the adoption process.
As emotionally involved as we got with our children, because you attach to them, you're supposed to get attached to them, and then you start to think there might be loss here. It's a very, it could happen that they could go home, which is really ultimately where they belong. But to know that there's somebody who is truly there for the kids is such a comfort at the end of the day.
The Dallas mother says changes from COVID-19 has added extra stress to children overall, and especially those in foster care. According to the most recent federal data, there are currently more than 400,000 children in foster care in the United States. And in Dallas County, more than 1,500 CASA volunteers work to serve an average of about 3,600 children a year.
Their training and their job is to be the voice for the child. They're not the voice for the foster family. They're not the voice for anybody other than the child.
For several decades, Valerie Dantes served as a CASA volunteer, and now she is a supervisor for advocates. She says COVID-19 has limited the access caregivers have with a foster child.
There are virtual visits, phone calls, a lot of drive-bys because we're not able to go into buildings. But even when we have, really strict visitation policies, advocates are begging, can I just even go there and be 6 feet apart?
Program Director Becca Leonard says another issue they are facing is fundraising. They are in need of donations since having to cancel many events.
The pandemic has been a challenge for everybody, including us. So when it comes to fundraising, we rely heavily on events, and due to the pandemic, we had to cancel most of our events.
Despite the issues and barriers COVID-19 has put in place, Leonard says they are still receiving support, and advocates are learning new ways to interact with these children.
Our advocates serve as a lifeline for children. We are a constant caring adult in the life of a child during the most frightening and complex time in their lives. They often the system, so the Child Protective System by design changes caseworkers. So from investigation to placement, they will change placement workers multiple times. But our advocate is intended to stay with them through the entire process.
And because these advocates cannot go into homes and many children are not doing in-person schooling, another major concern is child abuse. So if you suspect child abuse, call 1-800-252-5400.